Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Wolfram language design review. This is part of our language completeness and consistency series. And we seem to have an apparently modest collection of topics today. Let's start with digit count.
Right. So you sent two questions. One was, shouldn't this have a way to say the total size? And
Yes, for leading zeros and so on.
right. Um, which I mean, what I guess my question is, why would you ever want that?
Okay, because the reason is because I'm trying to count. I've got something where I've got like things in some register of fixed size, and I want to know how many zeros, how many ones there are. If everything is leading, if it's led by ones, no problem. But if I want the number of zeros, then I can't tell that unless I know the total size of the number.
Okay. And what if the the number of slots you give is less than the number of digits in the
You
number?
quote only the number of slots. Because the typical case is you're doing something like this. You're doing, it's the comparison between tuples, let's say something like this, right? So that has leading zeros, and
Yeah.
something like, you know, integer digits, table of integer digits, whatever. See what I'm saying? Am I making sense?
Sure, but I'm saying, if you give integer digits of 1, 2, 3, 4, comma 3, or whatever the imagined syntax for this thing would be, um, I
There it
guess it,
is. That's fine. It does that. It's the correct thing. It does exactly the right thing.
um,
Okay, so the maximum value of digit count would be this width argument.
Wait, sorry, I don't totally understand. When would it ever not just be, is it not just the max of the width argument and then the current value of digit count?
No, because the problem is digit count. Let me show you. Okay, let me say I say digit count of 7, comma 0, 3 digits, sorry, and base 2. Okay? I consider that's wrong if I have a register of width 5, for example. See what I'm saying? So it's not symmetrical. If I do this, I'll get 3, right?
Hmm.
But imagine that I was doing the tuples. Look, imagine that my 7 is part of something which I imagine to be part of these tuples. See what I'm saying? This is
I
not
guess,
difficult, guys.
okay.
I mean, I've run into this several times, and it's not a big deal. I mean, I can just do integer digits and count the number of digits, right? It's not a big deal, but it's just like it's an obvious thing to have.
uh,
Make sense?
well, I guess as an optional fourth argument,
Yes,
then,
that's correct.
Danny, do you see any problem with that? Danny here? Danny is here. Um,
Yeah, but probably he's on mute or something.
Okay, well, I'm going to assume there's no problem. So let's just get it.
And regarding your other question, it's very badly documented, but it is document that you can give a list of digits. So we should just improve the documentation there.
Okay, fine. All right. Dan is saying he can't unmute. Is somebody who is in control of the meeting, are they able to make it so that he is capable of unmuting? I don't see that he's not muffled, whatever I can see.
Maybe you can at least make write something in chat if he has a strong objection to what's
Yeah.
about to be,
Yeah, okay.
yeah.
Right.
Okay, let's move on.
Okay.
Okay, chart style versus plot style.
Right. So you complain, well, how can anybody ever figure this out? And my
Yeah.
first reply is that, first of all, generally things with chart in the name take chart style, and things with,
Why?
okay, well, let us
Why?
because
What's the difference?
because they're semantically different.
Okay, explain.
All right.
Brett, explain, please.
Scroll down a little bit more.
Right. Yeah. So plot style is per function or data set. Chart style slices at different levels of the data. Right. So
Okay,
here,
so why aren't we allowing both chart style and plot style, or renaming them, renaming chart style as an alternative name? Can the chart style functionality be used in plots?
No.
Why not?
Not at present.
No, okay, but that's
but
probably wrong.
it also I don't think it makes sense, right? It's a semantically different
Okay,
thing.
let's go through what it actually is.
Right. Well, yes, Stephen. When I prepare an agenda and spend several hours preparing an agenda, and instead of
All
you
right,
just
okay, so why don't you explain
I
it?
expect to go
Why don't
through
you
it.
explain it? Okay, explain it.
Well, I was starting to, and then you started complaining.
Okay, well, I'm looking at this example here. So this is saying red, green, and red, blue, and orange apply to the individual elements here, right? Whereas
Correct.
in plot style,
Yes.
they apply to the curves, and I don't actually understand why I'm not seeing a red and a blue here. Oh, because that's a sublist there.
Right. So
If I were to do this,
yeah. So let's
Go
go
ahead
back
and make
to the
it-
first. Let's
okay.
go through the examples in order, Stephen, instead of just jumping through them. Right. I
okay,
prepared them in a
okay,
specific order.
okay, go ahead, please.
Right. So here, right, in bar chart, right, if we do red, blue, orange, right, then we get each point, right, that applies to each point. Now, if we did that with plot style, right, we'd get a red curve and a blue curve. And since there's no third data point or third data series, excuse me, then in the plot below, we get, some blue dots and some red dots, but no orange dots.
Correct. Yes, I understand.
Okay.
So just to be clear, this is per data set, so to speak. And this is per element in that slot in each data set.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, it's almost humorous that somebody could get that from the name plot style versus chart style. It's embarrassing. But let's go on.
Well, then you should have objected 17 years ago when this was introduced.
Unfortunately, I was not paying enough attention right then. This was a mistake. It's one of these things where it was like, oh, it'll be okay, it's all great. And it
Well,
wasn't.
is chart style consistently always like per data point, or does it do different things?
Well, that
kinds of
depends on
charts?
right. So let's go through this series of examples, right? So here, right, if we right, so in this case, right, chart style, we have basically adding the list had no effect because it's assumed to be the innermost. When you only have one element, it's applied at the innermost level. Whereas, in plot style, right, the lists are grouping, it's like directive.
I don't understand that at all.
Well, then go down to the last couple of examples.
Okay, but Brett, can you explain to me why that didn't do it? Why that did what it did?
Because so chart
Because then you
style, when you have multiple
the individual
lists,
points. Yeah.
you have a group level. When you did that comma list green, right? You have red, blue, orange being set at group level. Similar to having a style wrapper around each of those lists.
Right, okay. So there's a completely different meaning of the subsequent elements in the chart style list. There's some kind of drill down thing. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes, which I have examples of.
Okay, fine.
Which is why we should go through the examples in
years.
order.
Okay, all right, fine.
Right. And I think we understand why it's orange, because that extra level of list was like a directive.
Sorry, which one in this case here?
Yes.
I'm sorry, why it's orange in that case? Because this. No, I don't.
Plot style.
Pre-V6 plot style, pre-directive, where we had to use lists to combine styles.
Right. That's the same thing as if you had directive of red, blue, orange, and
I
since orange is
understand.
the last color, it wins.
Okay.
Okay. So then, right. So then if we go back down to the one that's where you only see the red and blue bars,
Mhm.
right? So there we have red, blue, orange, and none, right? So we don't have anything for individual points, but we have something for each group. And so
How does it know that? I don't understand. Because back in the
because there's a none, right? It's a length 2 list with an inner thing. Right?
By
I told
default,
you.
Totally
chart
confused.
style, when there's lists of lists, as if it needs to fill in, it's filling nones to the left, essentially, by default.
Yeah.
Okay, so explain this to me. So if I say blue,
that
orange,
is-
green, it's just going to ignore the green, right?
Yep.
Right. So that
Because by
so Stephen, delete that green, add an extra level of list,
okay, if I add an extra level of list,
and then put none before the
And that'll be exactly the same.
yep. Right. So there we're applying things at different levels. So we're not applying anything at the group level, but we're applying things at the point level. And if you have a flat list,
and they
it's-
replicated at the point level.
yes. Yeah, there's an example of that below.
Right. I mean, and it's been a bit since I've seen Itai's notebook, but okay, there's examples of
Right. So there's
sort of using
now-
stuff at both levels.
By the way, I don't know why Roger isn't here. He should be here. Could somebody invite him, please?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right. Yeah, I don't know if this is a feature or a bug, but right. So if we did none, right? So the orange wins, which is why one series is orange, and then for the second one we have none in that list plot there, which is why you don't see the second series. Although if you hover over the right space, you'll get the dynamic highlighting, which I
Oh,
don't
you
know
get the
if that's a feature.
highlighting.
So not sure if that's a
That's
feature or a
interesting.
bug.
I was not expecting that.
Okay, neither was I.
I
but-
think it's a bug.
Okay. Right. And so then the next, well, I think you want to go 2
It's
examples.
an interesting buried treasure type idea.
Yes.
Right. I mean,
Okay.
there are some things where, like, even though it's none and it's not shown, the plot still knows about it. So like if you were to say filling goes to, list 1 goes to list 2, I think. Then you would get a line, from the orange point up to where the other point would have been, but you won't see the other point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, here's only that the style is none. It's not that the point is none, right? So
Yeah.
I think it kind of makes sense that it still have the
I
tool
do
to.
too. I think the buried treasure is okay. All right,
But
let's
that
go
brings
back.
up one more difference between plot style and chart style. Well, I mean, I guess it's chart style at the group level. I mean, like if you replace one of the blues with none, I think that bar at the moment only shows its border because that's coming from yet another style.
That seems consistent though, right?
Yeah, I think it's consistent. Okay, let's keep going. This is a horrible mess. I mean, realistically.
I mean, basically, chart style is way more flexible than plot style.
Right.
Yeah,
So
well.
let's
So you guys had the brilliant idea of introducing a new symbol and sort of pseudo-deprecating the
Because it's applying to different sorts of
Steven.
things.
Right.
Like the kind of style that you want to do.
Let's look at the last group of examples, and then let's circle back to the first section to get to that point, because you skipped over the first section, and there was actually non-trivial content there. Stephen, let's finish the examples and then jump back.
Okay.
right? So, right, so here we have sort of non-trivial specs for both, right? So I have red, blue, and then different levels of opacity, and we see that if I only gave 2 levels of opacity, then, right, it reused, right? It was cyclic within the group, which is why we see, you know, in the next input.
Okay. It's nice functionality.
Right.
Right. What would it even mean to do that in a plot?
I don't know. Let's look at the list up at the top of what uses what.
Right.
And I mean, because you're saying plots don't have the same kind of grouping structure.
Right.
Is that what you're claiming? Brett, can you confirm or deny that?
Correct. I mean, some of it will hopefully
I don't
eventually
believe you.
change, you know, as tabular progresses.
Right, but certainly with like function plots, right? I mean, you have the individual curves, right? It doesn't make sense to, at least I don't think there's a sensible discrete list of styles to apply to bits of an individual curve. And let me point out, so general, you know, there's, you know, basically the things, you know, basically almost everything has chart in the name, and you know, there maybe are perhaps 1 or 2 things that are sort of wrong, but that's basically correct. And not all viz functions have a plot style, right? Contour plot doesn't take a plot style. So, you know, it's not like
Takes
there's
the
some
contour style, doesn't it?
Yes.
right, exactly. So then why do we object to chart style to chart you know, chart functions taking each chart style?
Because some of them make, well, okay.
Yeah, so I'm just saying it, you know, you just claiming this was a horrible decision, I think is
Okay, but I mean, you know, biosequence plot, for example.
mhm.
Wait a minute, that's, yeah, okay. So, I mean, that's something where
Right.
I have no idea why biosequence plot should take a plot style rather than a chart style. No idea.
Well, I would argue that first of all, it's because it has plot in the name. And second of all, does this have different levels of stuff that you
I
might
think
want?
so. Yeah, look, it's got a whole.
Right. I mean, but I mean, I would expect that to be more of a rules sort of thing than plot style, even. You know, like array
And
plot.
Why is this
what
not even documented? Why is it? Why are its options? Oh my God.
has the same options as graph plot.
And it has the list of all options.
Yeah, okay.
And how does what I don't understand is where those different colors were coming from, because I didn't see anything that
There were 2 separate strands.
oh, okay, right. Well, then that's just right. Then it's just like a normal plot, right? Right. The first
Yes, yes, it is. Except that the colors are brighter for some reason for the, you know, for the bases than they are for curves. Anyway,
are they, or do they just look brighter because they're thicker?
I think
They're not the same as
Okay.
they are brighter.
Okay. I am so confused. I mean, okay. By the time we've got, you know, what's a Renko chart?
It's a financial thing.
I know that, but why am I getting?
Right, because those are the entities. So it's going to the entity page.
So histogram. I mean, are there any plots that are filled by default? Yeah, geograph value plot.
Yes. And stacked list plot. And
So what's the difference between histogram and stacked list plot? Why does one of them have a plot style and one of them have a chart style?
right. I mean, so histogram, I'm totally on board with making it accept plot style. And probably even switching it to plot style is the documented option, and it accepts chart style for historical purposes.
Right. That is one that Brett considers a mistake to just to get that out in,
Okay, fine.
explicit.
And okay, so is there anything that doesn't? Okay, what things do not have chart in their name? Because I admit I'm less concerned about chart style for things with chart in their name.
I think it's just the histogram family. Well, okay, and feature impact plots. It looks like.
Which I'm not
So
sure.
no, what is chart labels? See, this is where we go. This is where it's just going to go. It's going to fall off the. I just don't understand why there's a whole family of chart options here. I mean, it's no good if we just say chart style goes to plot style, but we've still got chart element function.
And you're looking at histograms still.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think most of those, I mean, chart style, chart labels, chart legends, at
Why
least
did
for
this jump?
histogram.
I did a jump down for that thing, and it jumped to the wrong place. It should have jumped to that being in the center of the page. Can somebody report that as a bug, please?
John, is that a bug?
I don't know if John's paying attention.
John, can you pay attention?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't see it.
Okay, I clicked on the down arrow for chart element function, and it opened in this state here, with chart element function right at the bottom of the page.
Yes, I'm well aware of that. That's actually already on my radar.
As
Okay.
a bug.
Yes.
Okay, fine.
It should, I mean, basically, it just should make a much more aggressive attempt to scroll it toward the top.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. By the way, talking of which, did you see my report about reverse closed cells scrolling to the wrong place?
I saw that there was a report. I've not
It might
read
be
it
a
yet.
feature
I've been on PTO for a little bit, so
okay,
I've
fine.
been a bit out of the loop. But I did see there was a report. It's on my list of things to
Okay, all right.
go back
I mean,
and
it
look at.
might be to do with blog tools style sheet, but it might be a general thing.
Okay.
It's super annoying. I see it more often, I think, in the blog tool style sheet. Okay, so this is chart element function.
Right. I mean, and that one legit is chart. I think.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, to the extent that this is an option shared with bar chart, for example.
Well, I understand that, but
You know,
what is a
but
chart option as opposed to a plot option? I mean, some kind of pedantic, whale is not a fish story. It's
well,
just
no,
not
I mean,
making it to me.
so the thinking at the time is that for the most part, the plot options don't have as deep of a hierarchy. And whereas the chart
for the most part,
options,
is it true? Is it always true?
Is it always true? I'm not thinking of any counterexamples off the top of my head.
Fine. So the claim is define the difference between a chart and a plot.
So the charts draw distinct elements. And
list plot doesn't.
I mean, list plot is very special to some extent.
I mean, there are like 10 other functions that are related to it.
There are lots of things that are a different form of list plot, right? But like list plot with points even is different from list line plot.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of which, when we're like exploring stuff with regard to tabular. It's like, okay, for list plot, we can change, what the marker shape is and what the style is and what the size is, and we can do all kinds of, cool things and map different columns to all kinds of different things. And then you move to like list line plot. And it's like, what do you do there? Because the line aspect of it imposes lots of constraints on what can usefully be done.
I'm sorry, you're saying list plot on its own with points.
Right.
I mean, conceptually, I mean, that's, kind of what we would like to, sort of start to incorporate with the tabular things. I think, not for this initial version, but, to say, to get into things where it's, here's my tab, whatever it is function of a tabular thing with, 27 columns. And then you start saying, I'm going to use this column, for my X coordinate and this column for my Y coordinate. And I'm going to use this column for color and that column for size. And labels are coming from here and, all sorts of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
That allow you way more flexibility than we've had in the past.
Okay, I want to come back to my original complaint.
Let me just make the observation, right? I feel like a list line plot, right, is much more similar to plot than it is. I mean, right, the data is different, right? But the thing you see, right, looks like something like you could have gotten from plot. So in that sense, it is sort of a bit of a different beast.
Yes, and so what's your point? I mean, okay, let's take bubble chart as an example.
So bubble chart is, I think, one of the cases that, comes back to what Christopher was asking, I believe, earlier on. If it always happens in the same direction. And it doesn't.
What do you
So
mean always in the same direction?
by default, bubble chart colors everything within a set the same. It still has the ability to color differently within a set, but it's not the default.
But I mean, ChartStyle, it's just incomprehensible why it's called ChartStyle and not PlotStyle here. I have a bubble chart. My bubble chart is very much like a list plot, except that I happen to have, things of different sizes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now I've got ChartStyle, but why? Why isn't it PlotStyle?
I mean, it could accept PlotStyle. We could make it accept PlotStyle.
But then why is it Chart Legends and not Plot Legends?
I think plot legends didn't exist back then.
That's part of the reason. I mean,
yeah, okay, but so that's why that's why we're in the jungle and we're hacking through it here. We got to fix a bunch of this stuff.
So can we look at I presume that bubble chart has some examples with ChartStyle, which might give us insight into.
Just scroll a little bit. Same issue.
Oh gosh. Okay. I mean, that looks unbelievably like a PlotStyle to me.
Well, I
yes.
mean,
well,
give it the specification, right? A list of list specification, and
there's probably one farther down that does that. I would hope.
ChartStyle goes to 24. I love that. Well, I don't think that's a great choice, but fine. Right. I mean, if you did something like, opacity or something, so that we could actually.
Okay, so it's a mixer.
Yeah.
am mystified.
Well, I mean, you have one
Right. All the
set
other
is
point is
being red,
purple,
one set's green, one set's blue.
and half the
Uh,
point in each of those is has opacity 0.3, and the other half is purple because
But
you.
why are they in different groups like that? I didn't understand. I mean, this is a bunch of triples, right? This is 3 sets of triples.
Yes.
So what got what?
So the first set got style of red.
And
The
then
second got style of green. The third got style of blue. Within that, every other one is either opacity 0.3, in which case it's
Oh,
affecting the
yowie.
red, blue,
Okay.
green, or it's just straight up purple.
right. If you replaced purple with, opacity of 0.7 or something.
Yeah, no, I get it. It'll be a mix in there. Okay, my question is, so the hierarchical styling of things, you claim is not a thing for pure plots. You claim. I might be able to prove you wrong. See what I'm saying? That in pure plots, like a parallel access plot, for example, that there isn't, or a pairwise list plot for that matter, you claim, I think I consider unconvincingly, that there isn't, that in plots, that there is a pure sort of linear collection, a single level list of kind of coordinate assets, basically. Do you see what I'm saying?
I think so, and I think for the most part that is true.
Right. I mean, I suppose theoretically one could imagine a list plot where you wanted every other point in your series to be something. And so you could imagine a ChartStyle type.
Yeah, I'd be
option.
prepared to give that up because I think that's a pretty obscure thing. I mean, although I agree that you're doing it for these charts. And by the way, there's things like tree form under PlotStyle that are just mysterious.
Treeform under ChartStyle?
Treeform needs to be modernized anyway.
Oh, I see. In the list.
Mhm.
Right, and right, that's just because it sort of, I think, passes things onto tree plot.
I mean, Julius set plot is again a I mean, I haven't a clue what does PlotStyle do here?
Probably nothing because that's a color function thing. I don't remember what the syntax is to get the points.
What the hell did that do?
I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, I mean, Julius,
Right.
right?
I mean, it is possible for, I think, Julius set plot to generate something that is point based. And for that, it supports PlotStyle.
If it doesn't have no PlotStyle, oh, is the border boundary of the Julius set. That's really weird. Okay, all right, it's amusing. Okay.
Although that is, I mean, that is consistent in the sense that PlotStyle in 2D plots generally is sort of line based and not, full region, right?
Except when it isn't, like in list plot 3D.
Or region
plot
plot
3D.
or
Yes, but list plot 3D is not a 2D plot.
Yeah, okay.
I suppose region plot may be an exception, but in most 2D plots, right? PlotStyle is quote unquote typically, not full dimensional regions.
I wonder what we could do to deal with this. I mean, in other words, let's imagine that you are typing one of these things. I wonder whether there's at least an autocomplete thing that we could
I mean,
bring up.
here's the simple thing. Just type style.
Where?
When you get to the options position.
Yeah, so type, bar chart.
Of, data,
Yeah.
comma.
Hello?
Huh.
Well, that's weird.
You don't, well, no, I don't think there's even a way to turn off the leading. That's weird.
Well, you were expecting that I would have, and as soon as I typed that, but it wasn't very intelligent about it. I don't think that's a great way to, I mean, I was thinking that we could at least prompt people.
John, are you paying attention? You might want to be paying attention to this.
Calling John.
I am now.
Okay. So the point is, in here, we've got a chart style.
Right. I mean, so you start typing, C, and
No, I don't. By the time I'm typing C, I'm
right.
already.
But my point is that those are all, the first four are all options to bar charts.
Yeah. So what happens if you start typing PlotStyle? It lets you do it.
Well, I mean, it always lets you do it,
And then
and then it turns it red. I mean,
So it favors option names first, but it doesn't omit generic system symbols.
I mean, I think the
Yeah, so
issue is
one
that
of the
the
questions
fuzzy
we had-
matching isn't preferring options.
Right. So when we did style, when we just typed in style, and we were hoping it to sort of.
That's not a thing people are going to do.
No, if fuzzy matchings always requires a first letter hits.
Oh, okay.
It's fuzzy after the first letter.
I see.
Oh, really?
But
And
PlotStyle-
this is because the choices that you get if you don't require first letter hit, they trail off in quality extremely quickly.
Okay, but look, we've got two issues here. One is, how do people ever know that it's really chart style here? Because they're going to type plot style. And nothing here tells them. I mean, it will be nice. Maybe we just need special casing in a case like this.
Well, I mean, there is something being given here. You're getting a plot style in red, and you're getting the menu, which allows you to go look up the information for bar chart.
The other one.
Oh, fascinating. Chart style isn't in the see alsos.
Well,
That's a bug.
That's a bug.
That's a bug. That's we put in chart style and we didn't go back and bother to look at what was there before. So can we get those fixed, please?
Yep.
Put it in an intelligent place.
Yeah, maybe contour style also wants to be there.
Yeah.
Because I mean, after enough years, I finally figured it out. But you wouldn't believe how many years it took me to figure it out that I needed to set contour style instead of plot style.
Right. So, I mean, they should be down underneath mesh style probably here. Right? Makes sense? Brett?
Yep.
Okay, so I'm going to count on you guys going through and fixing those. Okay, but so that's one very basic thing. But I claim if you type in plot style here, rather than it just going red and saying it's not an option for, it will be better if it told you, hey, what about chart style? For these ones where we know there's a confusion.
So you're saying this would be a manually curated thing? Because I have no idea how you could do this automatically.
No, it's not automatic. It's just manual.
Well, that could be a feature. Obviously,
are there other
we have now.
examples you can think of
this type
other
of thing?
pairs? Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's certainly a bunch of them in the visualization functions.
I mean, there's a whole bunch of plot versus chart, but apart from that.
No, I'm thinking.
I mean, there's stuff even
Maybe
within
frame
plots.
versus axis, but it's hard to tell.
Yes, yes, that's a good
Right, I
example.
was thinking
That's a good
plot label
example. I was
versus
very
plot
confused by
labels.
that recently. I was trying to get something to switch off the frame ticks. Ticks versus frame ticks, for example.
Yes.
But in order to identify that, you have to see basically whether the user is using the frame or the axis, because they could be using.
Doesn't
You
matter.
can't
I mean,
just tell
it's
if you
just,
can.
I mean,
it's just an
that one's
auto-suggest.
worse because frame ticks and ticks are both legal options
Yeah, I know.
for the
Yeah.
set functions.
But that's okay if we put in the autocomplete. I mean, it's a new idea for autocompletes to put essentially see also functions in the autocompletes.
So you're
But
gonna
I
write frame T, like for frame ticks, and then in the C also, the first thing is going to be ticks, and then below it's
No,
going to
no,
be
no.
frame
It shouldn't be.
whatever
No,
else.
no. It should be frame ticks first, but then ticks could come next.
No, that's what I mean. Like it'll all be a bunch of things that are fuzzy matches to frame T or whatever, plus ticks.
That's correct, because frame ticks. Yes, it is fuzzy matching to the thing you haven't yet typed.
I was gonna say it's a different form of fuzzy.
Right. It's conceptually, it's semantically
Yeah,
fuzzy.
I mean, there's some cases where that's going to work out poorly. I mean, if the fuzzy match was based on FT,
yeah, then it's hopeless.
I don't know what else matches FT, but it's probably a lot. We're just trying to drill down at that
So
point.
it's a bad idea, right? In that case,
Right.
I mean,
if they don't write frame ticks, they write frame tick. They have a typo, and so it's only fuzzy matching frame ticks. Does it still show ticks?
Probably not.
I mean, instead of auto completion, it could also be a raft on something that's red.
Absolutely, it could be a raft on something that's red. But
I feel like that's a better suggestion.
Fine. We could start with that. I mean, in this case,
is there currently any kind of raft on that red symbol?
Well, I mean, look, in this state, it just turned red. I kind of want to see the thing here, and maybe I want to see it down here, or I don't know. I don't know. Somehow in this autocomplete.
I mean, I think we could also do something post-complete. I'd rather do something, post-completion than in the middle of completion, because there's lots of ambiguities in the middle of completion.
I'm not horrified by that.
We don't even totally know what your intent is
when
we.
Although I still do think the case of legal frame ticks, suggesting ticks will be a good idea, but that's a different thing, and I consider that more luxury than this case. So, all right. Well, that's a start here. Okay, so there's some documentation stuff. So let's understand the action items here. There's the possibility of quietly accepting some options.
Mm-hmm.
The alternative to that, and we need to assess the two possibilities. It may be better to appropriately, indicate in the autocomplete what's wrong and have people fix it. I think we also need a review, like for the histogram, ChartStyle versus PlotStyle. There's some that are just a little bit crazy. How many are actually crazy? Do you get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So one thing is how many.
I mean, having reviewed those two lists, I think the set is pretty small. It's not empty.
Okay, good.
But
fine. So let's go assess which ones are pretty crazy, and then potentially introduce the version that we want, and continue to support but deprecate the other version. Make sense?
Yep.
Then for goodness sake, let's check all the cross-linking stuff in the documentation. We might even want to put lines in the details section sometimes saying, well, no, probably not. I mean, maybe for frame ticks versus ticks, those kinds of things, I don't know if they do have lines in the details section, but they probably should.
I mean, if you look at other style options, there are other options which are you know, I don't know what the overriding principle here is, but like take a look at trend style, for example.
Trend style?
TREND.
It's financially thing, yeah.
Yeah, I know.
So, I mean, one can kind of understand why trend style was introduced. I don't feel I have a grasp, and it's I haven't been fully engaged in this meeting, so it's partly my fault. But with what the underlying principle is, but do all of these kind of star style things, how much sense do they make?
Yeah, well, it's like everything. Everything has borders where, at one side of it, it's definitively this, at the other side, it's definitively that, and then there's a bunch of stuff in the middle that's unclear.
Yeah. So, and I'm sure that some of them do make sense. I'm sure there aren't a large number of mistakes, but there may be some mistakes.
Right. So we should assess whether there are mistakes.
Right. So,
But I mean, with like
just-
trend style here,
sorry,
yeah,
sorry.
is there anything wrong with?
Just
Yeah,
No,
to
I
be,
don't think there's anything obviously wrong with this.
right. Just to be clear, trend style is coloring by first derivative.
Yes,
Yes, it's colored by
Yeah.
difference, by first
right.
difference.
It's not positionally coloring.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It's a completely different, it's something that's only relevant for a handful of functions, and it seems like a fine thing to
Yeah.
exist. You couldn't do this with either ChartStyle or PlotStyle or whatever.
Right. I think the issue is, what are the cases where things are confusing? There are plot family functions like plot label. Is there a chart label? I don't know. Is there a chart label? And what's the difference between chart label and plot label?
So plot label is an option of graphics. Right. So it is
I don't care. I mean, I know that, but I don't care.
right.
Well, right.
No,
Well,
I mean,
you're
but
saying
we have
that
chart labels and plot labels, which are the element labeling options. But everything takes plot label without the S.
What's the difference between chart labels and plot labels?
Chart labels is able to is able to label at different levels.
Okay, but should functions that take chart labels also take plot labels?
There's no such thing as plot labels, or is there?
There is.
Okay. What
I've
are
never heard of it.
No, I've
Plot
never heard of it
labels?
either. I've
It
never
labels
heard of it.
sets in like plot list, line plot.
Oh,
That-
those things. Yeah.
Yes.
I haven't
Right, but it
counted
doesn't
them.
label critically though. It doesn't label data point. I mean, it's the same distinction as with when we saw with chart style, plot style. It's labeling data sets, not data points, right?
Right. For those, the point labels are currently via labeling function. But if you have two sets with 5 points each, and you want to label them with names of fish and names of colors or something, that's not an easy path, or not a straightforward path.
Okay. Are there functions that take both plot labels and chart labels? Could there be?
I mean, potentially there could be. I don't think there are.
You have the two lists
I
above,
mean-
right? You can just take the
I mean,
intersection.
the plot labels, would be a subset of chart labels. Because chart labels can label both, can label at every level in the data
See, this
set.
is super confusing. I mean, the fact that which I didn't even know, that chart labels has this featureoid that it can label at any level. Why can't plot labels label at every level?
What's the second level of plot?
Well, okay, fair enough. But why then?
Right. I mean, so perhaps right. I mean, so the chart things assume that your data is categorized in a homogeneous way. right?
What does that
And
mean?
so, and so what I mean is, so go to chart labels, say. And scroll down a little bit. Okay, so this example. Right. So we say, so we have 1 and 2, those are labeling at the group level. And then A, B, and C are labeling within each group. But within each group, they're both A, B, and C.
Yeah, I get it.
Ooh,
Okay.
I don't like that.
What?
The position of the 1 changed.
Yeah.
What was it before?
And it was up level with the 2.
Yeah. You should be able to just Command Z to see it, right?
Yeah.
Oh, well, also the height of the chart changed. So
Yes, I think that's the reason it changed. I don't think that's that heinous, but I mean the whole issue about charts are hierarchical. Chart label functions and chart style functions are hierarchical. I'm sure I knew that once, but I did not remember that. And I do wonder whether there's any possibility of a completion mechanism. I mean, this is a thing we haven't really talked about. This is a user assistance thing we could talk about, is you are about to type in a certain position. Could there be some kind of raft that indicates what thing you're filling in there?
That sounds like the code assistants.
Well, what I'm saying is, let's say I say partition, list, comma, and then now I'm about to type here, right? There could be a thing that would say, whatever the name of that argument is, it could say something, maybe.
I proposed a feature like that 15 years ago and couldn't get anyone on board for it. And
I know.
now we have so many things popping up that I don't know how we, I don't like popping up multiple things at once.
I'm sorry.
It's just stuff screaming for your attention.
I'm sorry, I missed something. What is the suggestion for the new thing to pop up?
A thing that says that it is width or something as the next argument. The argument you would type, it could have a little thing here that indicates, you're about to type width here, a reminder of what that argument means.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think
Right.
it would be cool. The difficult part, as I see it, would be things that have like optional second arguments.
Oh, I know.
Yeah,
There's lots of issues. There's lots of issues. But I mean,
there are lots of issues. I thought through a lot of these, and I couldn't get any traction for the idea. So
it was the wrong time.
Directions.
It was the wrong time.
There was software out there that was doing it, which did it well, and I tried to demo how it was done elsewhere.
Now we're agreeing that you were right.
Yeah, well, now that I have 10,000 other things to do, thank you.
Okay. But anyway, that's for the user assistance meeting, not for this meeting, I think. But the question here is,
and let me point out, right? I mean, if you select, right, if you look at the completions after you got partition, right, you can get the templates that you then fill in.
Sure. But let me make another point, which I think might be more useful. What about if, at this point, when you say chart labels, what the hell? Why isn't that? What the hell happened there? Why isn't that giving me an autocomplete?
Option right-hand side autocompletes need to be done by hand, which means that they can get overlooked.
No, that's not what happened here. Oh God, it is. Okay, that's a bug. Another Brett-related bug. Okay.
What's the bug?
But there's no right-hand side here.
There's no generic completion.
Okay, but this is what I'm saying. Look,
we have a system where you can specify curated completions either generally or on a per function basis. So it would be possible to put together per
okay.
function completions.
So what I'm going to suggest here, look at that. That has a completion suggestion.
Yes, but
Yeah.
each of those things is an actual setting that you could use. I mean, they're probably not the ones that you actually want.
I understand that. I understand that. So what we need is a style here of indicating sort of the fact that it is basically giving you what amounts to just-in-time documentation for ChartStyle that hints you that you can do this group stuff.
That
Right. I mean,
I'm not
so
convinced.
I could do this, and it would look like, the completion would be a list, with like the strings label 1, label 2, label 3. And then the next completion would be a list with the strings group 1, group 2.
Yeah, I think that would be useful.
Okay,
Then I would know how to do something with this.
that's fine.
I mean, but it shouldn't be completions that look like literals of the top ones. It has to be more like, if I do a completion.
Brett, something we haven't done but could be done is the completion could complete with placeholders. And then you could tab through the placeholders.
I tried putting what did I do? Did I try putting like placeholders as strings or something?
And it went.
And it just dropped like the input form in or something. I was like, okay,
okay, well, if there's a technical limitation, we can figure that out. I'm not too worried about doing that.
Yeah, but if we could do placeholders and option completions, I'm all for it. If we can come up with a mechanism for that, that's
okay. Then that's an action item for me.
Clearly, Brett, your mistake was that you didn't just put in the boxes for placeholder.
Well,
that was a joke.
It's been a while, so I don't remember exactly what I tried.
Okay, I need to run along here. I think we made progress on this. Let's loop back to this after absorbing what we've talked about here and come back with here's what we figured out. Okay. We've got several different paths here. And why is it that all these things that seem like they would be simple discussions are not?
This is a complicated system.
I didn't think this one would be simple, but I thought we would actually get past it onto the third item. I had no expectation of getting to the fourth item.
Fair enough. Okay. All right. Sounds good. See you guys soon.